Welcome back, everybody, to Hard Hat Talks, the podcast where we talk about construction, innovation, and everything that keeps the industry moving forward. Today, we're introducing Ernie Jessop from Concrete Form Services.
Morning, Sam.
Let's kick this off with the company background. What is Concrete Form Services, and how did it start?
Well, Concrete Form Services started out as a spin-off of the gentleman that owns the company now. He had a business called Equipment Services where they did printed circuit board industry type accumulators where he did stuff for PepsiCo. He built ambulance gurneys. He built backpack frames. They did awesome utility truck beds for the electric company. And essentially how they came to be was my cousin and I, Daryl Spencer, worked together for a concrete company, Johnson Concrete, in Utah. And this was 25 years ago. We would use the advanced wall system and mainly lumber that should have been retired to the weenie roast pile a long time ago. And Daryl and I did footings together, and he would often remark and say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had a couple of forms that we could connect with a hinge point to create angles and stuff like that. And back in the day, that was, typically just bay windows and stuff on small track houses where you would use an angle. But he decided that he wanted to pursue getting a patent on it. And so initially, it was just marine ply with a hinge, and he needed a machine shop to build these hinges that would wrap around, and it would be kind of this over-under stake point connection. And Curtis Jones ended up being the shop that ended up getting the call. And initially, Curtis thought, "No, this is stupid. I don't really want anything to do with it." And he had a guy named Clay that used to do his drawings, his AutoCAD drawings and stuff, that said, "Hey, I think you might want to give this another look. It's actually pretty cool." So Curtis ended up looking further into it and into the concrete construction field, and ultimately ended up deciding to get involved. And he and Daryl ended up partnering up to create Concrete Form Services.
It's mostly just like reusable forms, correct?
Yeah, it advanced from marine ply lumber, and Curtis was actually integral in moving that forward from a place of just stakes and nails to the consumable tie that is your spreader and your rebar chair all in one. And innovations like the skin panel and things like that came along after he and Daryl teamed up.
So this was started 25 years ago?
Yeah. Well, 23. We incorporated in 2003.
Would you say if you guys, helped a lot of companies?
Well, based on the feedback they've given us, absolutely. A lot of guys want to do this because they're sick and tired of lumber bills. And that's a great bonus, but it's not the reason. It's not the sole reason someone should do this, because your biggest expense is payroll. And if your guys are doing the same amount of work in 40 to 50% less time, then that pencils out every time. Easy Footings is our flagship product. We sell more Easy Footings than anything else. Of course, behind that is the Easy Curb and Gutter and Easy Flatwork systems. We've been selling to a lot of municipalities nationwide, and we actually sell all over the world. We have our forms in Canada and in the islands, and we've got them all over the place. We don't manufacture the trailers that we sell, and the kind of plug I'll put in for the trailers is they came along in essence to enhance the productivity, to make the system make more sense. In other words, if you send a guy for, hey, I need 4-footers to make this pier pad, he's not digging around in a hodgepodge mix of lengths trying to find 4-footers. He goes right to the 4-foot bay on the trailer, pulls them out, he's over there in a fraction of the time
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
take.
It just saves a lot of time and money to the companies. So that kind of leads to my next question. So, what types of projects benefit the most with the product? So, residential, commercial, industrial.
Uh, Honestly, they all could benefit in terms of, well, I'll leave off industrial because they're doing some pretty sizable stuff, but certainly the residential and the commercial, because we have big commercial companies that have been using our system. And there's a lot of commercial contractors that come up to our booth at the World of Concrete and they'll say, oh, this won't work for us. But yet you have $1 billion a year firms like Adolphson Peterson and Leighton and those companies that do massive projects. And a lot of them are I'll give you for instance, in Toronto, Canada, we have Elite Builders Group, and they're double breasted. They're half union, half non. Um, a lot of union guys are just there for the hourly paycheck, and I'm not trying to say anything derogatory about unions whatsoever. But the head mindset is you have a guy that wants to show up and work and get the hours. And then you have a guy that wants to show up and work, and maybe he gets paid by the foot and maybe he gets paid by the job. At the end of the day, these forms have a tried and proven track record that they will do anything that can be done in wood in 40 to 50% of the time.
Another thing to think about is all the wood that's being wasted after the, one-time projects. It bends the 2x4, it bends the 2x6. If you're trying to use it for another job, it's not going to happen.
They get bloated. They get, filled with water, concrete, moisture. There's slivers. There's all kinds of a downside, and they're so heavy and unwieldy.
How much does a concrete form weigh?
There are a lot of variables in lumber. A kiln dried 2x12, for instance, is going to be considerably less than the same length in timber strand. And so in those comparisons, any which way you slice it, our forms are lighter. And so it just depends on the wood you would be using to draw an honest comparison. But they're all lighter, regardless of length. And we create heights from 6-inch. We go 1-inch increments up to 24 inches tall. But another awesome dynamic about our forms is they're stackable. So if a guy was doing a metal building that had, say, every 25 feet, he had a pier. And in those piers, they were 2 foot deep, where the 12-inch run between the piers was only 12 inches deep. It's an amazing asset to have a form that is stackable. As long as you stay length for length, you've got something that's readily available to create exactly the forming that you need quickly, and you're not looking for ways to adjust.
It's definitely a game changer.
We were members for a long time, the Tilt Up Concrete Association, and we have a line that we build tilt up forms, and primarily it's comprised of, we make our own braces for the forms. We make commons ranging from 4 inches clear up to 9 inches, and then we have chamfer with 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch reveal. And we make our own window buck. They allowed me to do a side-by-side panel comparison with their crew. I had a guy working with me that he was from a completely different background. He wasn't from construction. But he and I set up identical panels, 2 of them side by side, same windows, same size panels. We were ready and set up ready for rebar before those guys had their braces, and we were using considerably less braces. I mean, they're over there putting their chamfer on with a brad nailer, and I'm putting 24-foot sticks down covering both sister panels in one fell swoop with 6 panhead screws.
You guys were already ready for the concrete before they even had a chance to catch up.
They literally had wheelbarrows full of braces, and we were set up ready for the rebar before they were even done cutting their braces. and it was glaringly obvious.
Sure, I'm sure once you showed them that, they bought your guys' product immediately.
Yeah, they did.
No, that's awesome though. Moving on to this next question, Ernie. How does concrete form services see the industry evolving in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Well, it's an interesting dynamic again. You have so many variables, economics, tariffs, and where we're using aluminum as our primary material to build our system. That it's a question mark in the sky, to be perfectly honest. It do I feel like it's going to evolve? It does. It evolves every year. I see things like robots that are doing layout now. I mean, with pinpoint precision, but fundamentally, I honestly think forming's going to be around for quite a long time.
Absolutely. I think I just saw they came out with like a robot that ties the rebar. I don't know if you probably saw that at World of Concrete.
Yeah. I didn't see it in person. I saw a video of it. There's just been several times where we've gone out and we're willing to do this with anybody.
Live.
Really, absolutely. If they'll give us a chance to show the difference, like in everything, the proof is in the pudding. And by the same token, we extend an invitation to anyone that wants to fly into Salt Lake, bring your foreman, come see. We've got hundreds of sets within a 50-mile radius of Salt Lake City. So it's very easy to get on job sites and see the forms in action. And so anybody that wants to do that, we welcome them in, because seeing is believing. But if it's a tilt-up job like you're saying, I'm more than happy if I know what the panel depth is. I'm happy to show up with enough material to do a panel and show them just how quickly these come together, because it's all about productivity and time savings is what it really should be about.
Yeah, I'll make sure to have your information linked in the description of the video so they can get in contact with you. So this next question, Ernie, what are some of the common misconceptions or hesitations about using the aluminum form?
So a misconception is that the upfront cost should offset your reason for transferring to a much faster, much more efficient system. It really is a no-brainer. It takes typically 3 to 4 pours before they see it, and it's glaringly obvious to them. But once they make that initial investment, and I'm not trying to undermine it, it is substantial. But anything worth having is expensive oftentimes. And what they fail to realize is that upfront cost is inhibiting them in the long haul. I mean, they'll start to immediately begin to recoup that cost in their payroll savings, and they'll find that their lumber bill is either eradicated entirely or drastically reduced. And that's a huge bonus. And really it is just a matter of stepping out in faith. And we ask people when they buy our system, trust us with half, we'll trust you with the other half. Give us a 50% deposit, and then you don't pay us the rest until you've confirmed all the quantities are on the trailer, that you have the forms in your possession, and then pay us the rest. And we're very down to earth guys. We try to be real in every respect, and we're concrete guys at the end of the day.
Wanted to make a comment. Some of the jobs they require the subcontractor to buy the lumber, buy the forms, to buy all that. If a company already has your system, they like, okay, lumber's going to cost us this much, but in reality, they know they already have your system and they don't actually have to spend that much money.
A lot of guys are buying the concrete, and if you're just doing track homes to light custom, using the easy footings over wood will, on average, if you're doing a job that's between 300 and 400 lineal feet of footing, you'll save a yard to a yard and a half, sometimes more, in concrete just using our system. And the reason I say that is our ties, which act as your width controller and your rebar chair all in one, make it to where you can order your concrete exact with our system, because you're not losing anything to lapping or deflection. If you pour with wood, you get big areas that bulge, And really on another vein where that's concerned, everybody has this concept that it's getting buried. It doesn't matter. But if you're a homeowner or you're a commercial contractor and you have the end user, your clients coming up on that job, when they see something that's getting buried looks so beautiful, it gives them a tremendous amount of confidence in you as a contractor that your conscience is going to be there through and through, top to bottom. Because if you start right, you're going to end right.
How many pours does it take for your product to actually start, seeing the wear and tear?
Well, I've got guys that bought over 22 years ago that still use them every day. So that's to be seen. And you're talking thousands and thousands of pours. And I'll give you while we're talking about consumables, we have consumables. Our ties are a consumable. But if you did a cross comparison to what a yard of concrete costs, you're way ahead of the game. And they're sixes to Dobies or rebar chairs. You're paying anywhere from $1.20 to a buck, depending on we make them 16 inches and we go 2-inch increments up to 36 inches wide. And you're paying anywhere from $1.20 to $1.60 a tie, which if you look at an average house that you're using, say $70 worth of our product, our consumables on, but you're saving a yard and a half of what's it? Yardage is different everywhere you go. I know in Canada it's over $200 a yard. Yeah, here I think it's in around the $160 range per yard. Depends on where you're at. But yeah, we have consumables, but they're justifiable consumables that do always save you money.
Dude, that's actually insane that somebody's bought your product over 20 years ago and they're still using it today.
And there's many such cases. We have McClure Concrete. We featured them at the World of Concrete. Their trailer, that was their 36th trailer that they bought. That's a juggernaut of a company. And these guys track their productivity. And some of these companies tell me things like, next to my total station, that is bar none the best investment I've ever made. And you can either have a piggy bank aspect of your company that brings in money, and all aspects should bring in money. I will say this, right now, I would say the hardest commodity to find is a good, integrable work ethic employee. Our system slows turnover because it is easy to use. It's enjoyable to use. It doesn't kill backs. It doesn't give slivers. There's so many pluses to using the easy footings or the easy flat work or the easy tilt up. It's just, it slows employee turnover.
Productivity saves them tons of money.
And people are willing, if they want to put in the time, I'm happy to give names and numbers of customers we have in their area. They're more than welcome to call them. They have nothing to gain by telling anything other than the truth. We don't compensate people for giving us, give us a good review and we'll compensate you. It's call them up, ask them how they like it, and they'll tell you. It's a no-brainer.
Being in business more than 20 years, do you have customers in every state, you think?
Not in every state. There's you have the Mason-Dixon line. If you go back to the Civil War, and you had this line across the northern and the southern states, a lot of those southern states still trench pour, and so there's not a real demographic for us in every state, but every state that they can be used, we have customers, and they love them.
That's interesting that you guys started this 20 years ago and people are still using your forms today. You want to talk about the Easy product line? Is there a product you want to mention?
Well, as I said in the beginning, we have easy curb and gutter. You can do straight, you can do standalone curb, you can do radius. The only thing we don't address, unless it's very specific to a radius, like we don't do the batter in the radius. if we can do it, and we have done it in the sense of if a guy has a repeated 2-foot radius, for instance, and if you were to look at it, if I was to hold it out in front of myself, it would be a smiley face, right? Because it's not only deflecting outward, but it's radiusing all at the same time. So that's something that we haven't really gone full length because there's really no way. It's like stairs. You have different rise and run on every set of steps. And so we don't have a stair form for that reason. We don't get into wall forms. There's a lot of people that have already, and I just would give a shameless plug for Western forms. I mean, those guys, they bar none build the best wall system known to man. It does the best finished product. It's the longest lasting. I'll give you a for instance on that. I have a customer here in Hamilton, Montana, where I live in Corvallis, Montana. My customer, Rick Lupke, he bought a set of Western forms, and he told me this story himself. So uh, he said, we bought these 25 years ago. We used them all that time, and I just sold them for more than I paid for them. If that's not a testament to aluminum longevity and just class act workmanship, I mean, that company's got it on lock, in my opinion. And I don't work for Western Form. I just happen to, I've seen their systems over and over again. I have a lot of customers that have the system. And anymore, you got these really high-end custom homes that demand it. They're not okay with the aesthetically ugly anymore.
They want Western forms.
They want the beautiful, elite, gasketed finish product that system is capable of doing. And I'm not so sure that there's another system out there that can touch it. And I feel the same way about ours. I think ours is the absolute best footing system, bar none, out there. And I think a 23-year track record proves that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So, Ernie, wrapping things up, it's been an awesome conversation. Is there
I
any final?
appreciate it.
Yeah, is there any final thoughts you want to give for the episode?
If you're someone that's considering implementing our system, as I said before, we welcome you in. Fly into Salt Lake City. Come see job sites that are the systems being used live. Bring your foreman. Let him go down into the hole, handle the forms, pick them up, feel them, learn the tricks of the trade. Because there's guys that, I mean, I'm gonna go digress a little bit back to one of our components. It's the DJ jogger, and its primary use is for creating odd size offsets. So you never need an exact form to create a jog. You could slide this and you could run forms wild and intersect anywhere, literally anywhere. There's nothing this thing can't do. If you had only long forms, but you needed to do a pier that was, again, 3x3, 4x4, but you only had 8-foot forms, you could intersect these DJ joggers to make that happen. And it's just an awesome little component and the reason it's called a DJ jogger is because the guy that invented it, his name's Danny Johnson. He's one of my longtime customers, one of the first guys I sold. And he sat down at lunch and he drew this out on a napkin for me. I said, "What do you want for it?" He says, "Nothing, just name it after me." So we did.
I'm sure once people see your guys' videos on Instagram or social media, they get their first impression. Where can listeners learn more, request a demo, or get in touch?
Well, so the office number is 801-280-6992. My direct line is 435-731-0909. And I'm happy to talk to somebody on a weekend. I believe this is the best product out there, bar none, and I'm available to talk about it whenever somebody wants to. I mean, don't bug me on a Sunday if possible. I have a family, but if you're just itching to try it, man, we invite you to come do it. And we're happy to help train your guys. But, come into Salt Lake, see them in action. It's very easy to do. If they're willing to make the time to do it, it's well worth their time.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to put all your guys' information down below so they could contact you and they continue to check out your website, check out your systems. Awesome.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Ernie, for coming on.
Thanks.
Yeah, And to anybody listening, I hope you got some value from it. Subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You can listen to us on Spotify. Connect with Ernie on LinkedIn. Thank you, Ernie, for coming on, and thank you guys for listening.
My pleasure. Have a wonderful day.